Okay, here goes. Every morning I walk into my office and ask my colleagues, "Hey, how was your weekend or evening?" They say good, but then there is no follow-up question like, "Hey, how was your evening or weekend?" I always try to be nice to the people I work with. Am I being nitpicky or are they being unfriendly? Story 1. I get into work at 7. Just a simple good morning is all I want at that time, and that is all we are doing. We can chat later. Story 2. Depends on how close we are. Regular colleagues, I just say, "What's up, friends?" I take an interest. When I get called back to the military, I say, "What's up, idiots?" Story 3. Good morning. Some people take longer to wake up than others. I don't want to have an energy-consuming conversation at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Story 4. I usually just say good morning. I am not a big talker in the mornings and generally do not get too personal with my colleagues. The person I work with most of the time usually goes into great detail about what he did over the weekend without me asking. I like him even though I am not a big talker, so I politely listen and do not say much else. Story 5. Hello everyone. We all laugh, and if someone does not, we ask them if they are feeling okay and what is bothering them. We are straightforward construction workers, not inconsiderate people. We are our brother's keepers. Story 6. When I walk in, I just say a general good morning and I get a good morning reply back. As the day moves forward and everyone is settled in, those who feel like chatting do, and those who do not just keep to themselves. Do not take it personally. Not everyone wants to engage first thing in the morning or at all. Story 7. As a representative of the antisocial and introverted community, I avoid asking coworkers how they are doing, just to avoid accidentally starting a whole conversation about their weekend. I go with a friendly good morning with a big smile. Unfortunately, it is possible their brains are not fully awake in the morning and they simply forget to reply. Story 8. Do you actually care how their weekend was? Or are you just saying the usual words? Or are you baiting people into inviting you back? Story 9. No one wants to talk to their coworkers first thing in the morning. You do not really care how their weekend was. You just think you are being polite, but you are probably annoying to be honest. Story 10. I will ask someone about their weekend if they ask me, but I really do not care, especially not first thing in the morning. Story 11. I specifically wake up at 6 so I can arrive 2 hours before the others and avoid them all morning. Story 12. I work with a group of antisocial computer experts, and I am the grumpiest by far. It is a nearly perfect office environment. I usually grunt something like, "Good morning, gentlemen," as I slam down my laptop case, and then we typically do not speak another word to each other until well after lunchtime. Story 13. It depends on the relationship. If it is a random person, say morning. If it is a manager I respect, say good morning. If it is a manager I do not respect, a head nod going up with no words is appropriate. If it is a coworker I like, say good morning with an endearing nickname. Story 14. I'm a teacher, and a custodian always tells me, "What's happening, mister?" I respond with, "How's it going, mister?" We never really answer our questions. Every now and then I'll say, "Too much already. Needs to calm down." Story 15. In my 30s, the answer to, "How was your weekend?" would be an adventure-filled story about surfing, skateboarding, or drunken adventures if the weather was bad. These days, I am too embarrassed to say I spent it on the Xbox or doom-scrolling Instagram, so I just say, "Okay," and quickly walk off to find some work to do. Story 16. I say the day in a very unenthusiastic tone. Monday. But with a combination of irritation and tiredness, like I haven't had coffee, because if it is early enough, I haven't finished the first carafe yet. It has now become a running joke, and everyone expects it. Story 17. I just say good morning. It is 7 or 8 a.m., and I do not like talking a lot in the morning, so I keep it simple. Story 18. I just say hey or morning and leave it at that. Sometimes, if I want to mix it up, I say Guten Morgen, since I have been learning German for over a year. Story 19. Be aware of how each person responds. Do they set their work aside to turn and look at you and engage? Then ask them how their weekend was. Do they look quickly, say good morning, and return to work? Then move on. Story 20. People are no longer genuinely interested. They are more focused on social media and texting, which is quite sad. Story 21. Depends on who it is. I say good morning to the office women, hello to the older people, and yo to the young people if I say anything at all. Story 22. As a colleague, I honestly could not care how your weekend was unless I played some part in ruining it. Story 23. Good morning. Story 24. How long was I away? I once went away for 2 months, and when I came back, all I said was ladies. If I was gone for a week, sup friends, just a day or two. Girl, morning. Story 25. Sometimes I say morning because I am not a morning person, but society has forced that on me. Other days, I drag my left foot like my leg is barely a load-bearing appendage, slur my speech, and in a deep raspy voice say brains while continuing to walk as if it is a perfectly normal response or greeting. However, when I ask how someone's weekend was, they usually tell me and then ask me in return. Story 26. Hey, how's it going? You are being nitpicky. Not everyone wants to talk about their weekends, nor do they care about your weekend or evening. They may be busy with work, have their minds on other things, or simply do not want to pry into your life or business. Even their not caring does not make them rude. It makes them different from you. How was your weekend? Is something I care to ask friends about. Most of the people I work with are not friends. It is a common misunderstanding that people you work with are friends. They are not. They are co-workers, acquaintances at best. They are not friends. Story 27. That's not saying good morning. That's interrogation. What if they say I buried a family member this weekend? Maybe wait until lunch to have real conversations. You will have better luck. Story 28. Hey, I hope you are having a bad day. Or you look like you ate too many hot dogs last night, brother. Story 29. When I walk onto the production floor, which is not often since we all work from home, I greet everyone with a movie quote. The expectation is that they will return the greeting with another quote from the same movie. Story 30. Howdy. That is what I say. It is cordial and nice, without making a statement about the day or engaging further. Story 31. I always just say, hey, good morning, or hey, how's it going? That's pretty much it. I am not trying to talk first thing in the morning. Story 32. Maybe it's just a Midwestern thing, but most of us just nod and say good morning without the good part. It's like we are acknowledging it's morning and we don't want to talk about it. Story 33. I mostly just say, good morning, or morning. Checking in on how the weekend or a recent period went is something I do for people I am closer to, or for people returning after being sick. Story 34. You would be lucky to get more than a grunt from me if you try to start a conversation with me before my morning caffeine. Leave it at an exchange of good mornings, then message me on Microsoft Teams once I have had a cup of coffee, and I will be happy to chat about your day. Story 35. I can work with 80 people in my company. Depending on what time I arrive, I could open and greet every single person on time by saying, good morning. Different races, including older men, younger apprentices, Asians, and Russians, all respond with some form of good morning. Police officers are the only ones who have ever taken offense. Story 36. I do not say good morning to people, and when it is said to me, I respond with hello. I have done this for as long as I can remember. I am not a morning person, and most bad information comes in the morning. Story 37. Is it possible that you talk too much? I used to have a coworker who, when I responded with my weekend was good, how was yours, would then talk for 10 minutes straight about every detail of her weekend. Story 38. It's weird to explain in English, and even natives who are not from my region call us crazy at times. Translated, it means morning, and the end, asked in that specific context and intonation means much more. One simple word contains, how are you? Had a good evening or weekend? Is everything all right? The answer is either something exciting that happened, Or if nothing exciting happened, it's just, yeah. How about you? Story 39. If there are people in the break room, I say hello to everyone. Other than that, there are only a few coworkers I greet outside of that if I see them. However, I do not really care about how their days or weekends are going. I could talk about it or not. It makes no difference to me. Story 40. Good morning, Mr. Johnson, my coworker who is here when I am. If they engage afterwards, we chat briefly while I settle in. If they do not, I quietly settle in. Story 41. Depends. To my two main coworkers, I say, hey divas. For coworkers I work with less directly, I say, howdy howdy. Story 42. I usually just say good morning, everyone, and take my cup of tea to my room. There is no time to chat at that time of day, but during the lunch break we usually talk a lot and share stories about our lives. We often laugh about funny things that happened at work, too. Story 43. The men in my office greet each other every morning with the surgery scene from Spies Like Us. Doctor, 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 doctor. Story 44. My team leader used to say, well, you have woken up early, every single morning, and I loved it. We usually started work at 6 a.m. Story 45. I just give a nod and say, hey, buddy. If I am dealing with someone frequently or one-on-one, I ask more open-ended questions. On Friday, I ask, hey, what do you have going on this weekend? I am doing XYZ. On Monday, I ask the person questions about what they told me they were going to do. I personally detest platitudes and empty social interaction. I skip empty questions altogether. If I need to talk about business, then that is what we discuss. I am a bit abrupt, but people get used to me. I am friendly. I just do not have time for empty conversations. I am also likely on the spectrum, so take that with a grain of salt. Most people seem to appreciate skipping pleasantries once they get used to it. Story 46. I never say anything unless spoken to. Some people are sensitive. There is no point, and I hate small talk. Most of the time, I get a good morning from everyone. I am not hated, but I am not loved at my work either. I am just there. Story 47. I say hi or good morning, and that is it. I do not ask how they are doing, nor do I care to be asked how I am doing. Nobody is ready for all of that. Story 48. Honestly, I do not want anyone to talk to me in the morning. I do a quick hello or good morning, but otherwise, early morning conversation is not my preference. I will catch up with people later in the day. Story 49. Morning. I'm not in the mood to talk early in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I dislike life before 11 a.m. I understand where you're coming from, but it is not your problem. They likely just have the struggle of many negative thoughts trying to take over their soul because it is morning. You can ask them weekend questions closer to lunchtime. I'm sure they will be more receptive. Story 50. They do not want to chat with you. That is okay. They may not like you. That is okay too. They are not being rude if that is your only complaint. Story 51. Early in the morning when I get in, I say good morning to the other regular crews. If they want to ask what's up or how we are doing, I offer a brief exchange. New faces get a good morning. Then I go straight to my rig. The crew I am relieving gets a good morning. I listen to their summary while I go through the rig and ask how their shift or night went. I wish them a good rest of the day. I then go to work out for 30 minutes if possible. That is my version of morning coffee. If people want to ask me about my days off or weekend, I will now have a conversation. To be honest, I do not really care if others ask me about my life. It is more interesting to listen to others' activities or gossip. Story 52. There isn't any one way. I've been in information technology for over 25 years, and in general, the offices I've been in were incredibly quiet. Everyone wore big headphones, studio monitors in the early days, now noise-canceling ones, and were focused on their screens. I never realized this was not normal until I started doing consultancies with customers, where I realized people in offices actually talk to one another. You need to read the room. If nobody picks up on your cue, just drop it. Some people are just like that. They want nothing to do with colleagues other than work-related matters. You'll eventually find someone who is more open to going to lunch or taking a coffee break with you. Be aware you might come across as annoying or disruptive. On the other hand, some people and environments are just unpleasant. It's a fact of life. Story 53. If saying good is enough of an answer, then it is just niceties. Saying good morning without a question is doing as much acknowledgement as asking a rhetorical question. Maybe they are not considerate, but I would not conclude that from general acknowledgements in the morning like you described. In that context, asking about their day or weekend is pointless in my opinion. Story 54. I walk past a few of my staff when I arrive and say hi. When I get to my office, I say good morning to the offices next to mine and go get my morning caffeine. In the break room, I say good morning to Robert and anyone else there that day. At some point, I will touch base with a few people I'm closer with to talk about the weekend and other topics. A majority of my colleagues I don't see often, but if we pass in the hall, I always say hey or give them some eye contact and an appropriate nod. Story 55. I am 22 years old and work in information technology with about 29 others aged 21 to 32. We all work from home and greet each other with good morning in the chat. As the day progresses, we chat more in the group chat. We work in the office once a month. When I get there, I talk with the people who arrive early and greet everyone with a fist bump when I get upstairs. However, I only start really chatting later in the day because we start at 7:30 a.m., which is too early for chit-chat for me. Story 56. A murmur, grunt, or gesture. A morning if we are being generous. The sun has not risen most days when I start work. I am not going to pretend that is a sensible hour to start work. Story 57. I'm a mechanic, so it's kind of crass and rude because we have a rough attitude from the start. I begin the day by saying, today is going to be challenging. Everyone, fill your coffee cups and try to keep the disruptions to a minimum. If you can't, make sure it's at least funny. Story 58. What's up, everyone? I work in a blue-collar field and work with a group of grumpy middle-aged and older men. I really enjoy teasing them, just like they used to do to me when I was an apprentice. They always respond, though. Story 59. I get to work by 8:30. By that time, I have been awake for 4 hours, and I have had a run and a full breakfast. I understand some people are still barely waking up and have not had breakfast yet. So a simple good morning followed by silence is normal. Just be aware that not everyone is in the same mental or physical state as you at that time. Story 60. If every morning a colleague asked me how every single prior evening was, I think it would not take more than a week before I drowned them in the water cooler. Story 61. Depends on where I was working. At more casual places, I would be a little more talkative. For my more professional roles, just a simple hello or good morning. Story 62. What kind of company do you work for? Some men in certain fields, such as engineering and information technology, are conversationally stunted and do not know the proper etiquette of conversation. Story 63. I say good morning to anyone I know in the elevator. You are not getting any more from me in the morning. I save small talk for later in the day once my brain has defrosted. Story 64. Nothing is worse than unnecessary chit-chat. Keep your eyes forward. Also, if you receive a greeting, it should be once per day, not every time you pass by. Story 65. I usually just say good morning. I do not want to be rude, but I am socially awkward at best. Also, I do not really care to share that I did not do anything all weekend, nor do I particularly care what you did either. Story 66. Most people are not energetic in the morning. I say morning, get coffee, and once I am settled, I am ready for conversation. Story 67. It is possible some people do not realize the exchange is two-sided. Maybe they think it is just a greeting. You are doing the right thing by trying to be friendly. Story 68. Most people are tired in the morning. They have come home from work, had to clean, cook, potentially tend to the children, and wind down. They get to sleep, probably without having 8 hours of rest, then fall out of bed, get ready, and sit in traffic to arrive at work on time. The weekly routine of most employed people is dismal. People are not going to be energetic in the morning. Give them a chance to wake up and have their coffee. First, make it a quick hello and let people wake up. Then, perhaps chat more later in the day when everyone is fully awake. Story 69. I mostly work with all males, so something usually like, "What's up? Morning. You still being difficult? Oh, hey." Story 70. Some people are just trying to get their day going, and they probably do not care how your weekend was. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.